Okay, let's try this one last time. I immediately devolve into the need for you to stack white rice, a 12 bore, and all the pellets, the freedom pellets that go into that in preparation for the upcoming Civil War. But then I just went off on that for like 20 minutes. So here's the thing: this story, the reason it's a couple days old, but I've been following it and reading their Twitter. And the more I read the Twitter, the weirder it gets. Where it seems like that Norm Macdonald on Saturday Night Live, where he says like, yeah, everyone involved in this story has come across like a real jerk. So what happened with the story was his team was disqualified from a tournament Pokemon for laughing upon being asked about his pronouns. It's like you go like, oh, I'd love to be asked about my pronouns. It's like, yeah, people like you, they take a look at you, the guy who's listening to this, or me, and they just don't ask because they know like they know how it's gonna go. So they ask everyone else with the name tags and the Sharpie. And it's like, oh, some people are, if you feel comfortable, some people are listing their names and pronouns, and they look at you and they're like, if you don't have to. It's just some people are doing it. Okay, great. Anyway, so Pokemon SJWs eat. I know the audience, right? They're on Telegram. Pokemon SJWs eat each other. It's the beard master race. So as it turns out, it seems like everyone involved in this story are just toxic SJWs and fully on board this cultural Marxist stuff. So, F them all. I hope they all, if they want to go up each other's back holes with wokeness, just sit back and watch it, preferably with a drone. So what happens is some kid was asked about pronouns by some sick, twisted adult at a Pokemon event, and someone on Twitter pointed out, when people do that, these like obese soy boys and blue cat ladies, they just do that so they can talk about their pronouns, so they can explain that there are they, them, or actually sometimes they feel, and they just want to, like if you're receptive to it, they'll just go off on it. That's why you have to master the resting bitch face for guys too. Like you have to master that poker face. But it's not just a poker face. It can't be neutral. It's got to be a little bit disapproving. What's that? The $100 bill guy, Ben Franklin or something. It's that judgmental face. But it's not a smirk. You can play with it a little bit. It's just it's thing is we probably have that face all the time, and that's why people just don't like. A lot of this stuff is self-selecting when they see people who are giving them this look. Like the thought bubble above our head is you kind of get the idea for that. I'm just gonna I'm gonna have to get a computer and start editing these things. And I think like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Then I think, really, you're gonna edit like an 80-cent video? Oh, probably not. Anyway, so the kid gets nervous and he laughs, like the Nick Sandman situation. And keep in mind that the thing that saved Nick Sandman is he didn't say a single word, and that's kind of a whole other video. Anyway, so the judge got triggered because the kind of person who's an adult and asking about pronouns is probably the kind of person who gets triggered about a lot of stuff, and they kicked the kid out. Who, keep in mind, spent $800 and he had to fly to get there, stay in a hotel, so there must be some pretty big prize money for this thing. If you're willing to spend $1,000 to get to this tournament. And they kicked him out because he nervously laughed. And now this kid is not some far right wing poop lord. Everyone involved in this story appears to be a legitimate SJW, which is why I hope they all eat each other. So what happened was the right wing hears this story, and they think, oh, the kid is like he's like a little based or something. That's not what I can tell from his social media. And he's got Southeast Asian or something, so he has that privilege working for him on the oppression hierarchy. He can work that for all he wants. And the best thing is, like, he cried, which if you can cry on command, you can have a lot of fun with these people. So he appears to be an SJW, and the story appears to be actually what it is presented as. The kid was just nervous, and the judge was mentally ill, which, again, an adult who's telling you his pronouns at a Pokemon tournament. Yeah, that should be in the DSM, right? But the other kids in the tournament, if you follow their Twitter, are also these toxic, backstabbing, bullshit traders who are taking this passive aggressive stance and virtue signaling about the whole. They're doing this passive thing where they go like, well, if his story is true and I have no reason to doubt him, then maybe the judge. But we still need to be very respectful of pronouns, and it's like, you're just all horrible people, aren't you? And you look at them like, oh, read their Twitter, they're very much horrible people. Everyone involved in the story, just a total toxic douchebag, which is almost guaranteed with the left wing. SJWs are the most toxic, intolerant authoritarians imaginable. And, I say stack rice and 12 bore freedom pellets, whatever you're into, because you're not going to vote your way out of this. That's like that ship sailed a long time ago. Get to know your neighbors and, Maybe sandbags. I don't know. Anyway, so the best thing to answer when asked about pronouns is like no comment because you believe compelled speech is wrong. You could cite the F the draft case or the these various Supreme Court cases, the New Hampshire, I think, live free or die thing. I don't know if that's New Hampshire, but one of those tiny little states, maybe it's Rhode Island or something. So yeah, they're going to kick you out of events, but then it would be a mask off moment where it brings a compelled speech issue to the front. Either you speak when they tell you to, or you will not be allowed in their spaces. And that's something like we might as well just bring that to the forefront, and they to the point where they need to make that a rule. Um, hopefully you think so. We pay our representatives to you pay your representatives in Washington. You pay them to launder money. Oh, they're not don't represent us. No, that's why I say you're not. There's like the time for voting is like 50 years past. So this is something a true liberal would be very much against because it's compelled speech, but it also forces a restructure of a framework. You're seeding battleground by taking part in their construct. It's a complicated thing they're doing. It's like it has a name. It's called cultural bolshevism, and it's very clever because they control the Wikipedia. Where if you look up that word, they have all these. They reframe the definition of that in the Frankfurt School and Saul Alinsky and all this stuff. You go, but all that stuff is all actually real. Like the Wikipedia entry is reframing it to your benefit, but if you go beyond Wikipedia, you see the truth, and you look at you look at the wiki entry, and you're like, how many people just stop the wiki and believe this nonsense? Because all these things are all actually true. Anyway, so what happens if you do something a little bit weird and you just say that the question is triggering for you and you decline to answer? So here's the thing about cultural bolshevism. If you don't want to fight it, then accelerate it to destruction. Use the ladies' rooms at these events. Make them deal with the consequences of their action, which is convenient because men have the urinals in men's room and the toilets are in both rooms. So you think about like, well, it's going to be a little inconvenient for the women because presumably they're not using urinals. I don't think so. Um, but that's good for them to examine their privilege as females, or just use the opposite sex when they ask you their pronouns, so they can see like, oh, well, you're 6'1", 300 pounds, a beard. Okay, she, her. Okay, okay. I myself actually am a woman of color because I identify as marginalized, oppressed, and disenfranchised. No, the left won't abandon the T in the BLT. And the thing is, you don't have to explain it. They just need to listen, believe, and accept your story. This is your struggle. This is your pathway. If they don't believe, they're I don't know, triggering your post traumatic stress or something. Anyway, so no, the left is not going to abandon any of this kind of stuff. They're going to double down. 6 Christians got slaughtered the other day, and Madonna is doing a charity concert for the BLT community and not the Christian community that was just slaughtered. So she's helping the. Does it make sense? Yeah, once you see it, it makes sense, and then it all makes sense, and then it all effing makes sense. And then suddenly you don't think we're so crazy. No, you're still crazy. Anyway, so the Biden press secretary gave a thing 2 days after that event, said they were going to double down and protect the BLT community after one of them slaughtered 6 Christians. I'm not making that up. So Joe Biden laughed when he was interviewed about it, and then he said he was only kidding after laughing about the dead Christians, and then he rambled about ice cream. And now, to be fair, in his dementia, in his defense, he legitimately does have dementia, which is an issue because he's the president of the United States and he has dementia. He doesn't know what's going on. So you go, oh, you should probably look at his cabinet, and you look at his cabinet, you're, oh, sweet Jesus. Oh my God. Yeah, that's why I say stack white rice and freedom pellets. And get to know people, get to know your neighbors, form jogging clubs, health and fitness clubs, or whatever you want to call them. So asking for your pronouns is part of the humiliation ritual. It's an inherently aggressive act because they're compelling you to adapt their worldview, their cultural Marxist lexicon. They're reframing the argument, and by forcing you to take part in it, you've already conceded ground. I mean, it's remarkably clever. It's like a Scientologist level manipulation, but it's like the people who put Scientologists to shame are the cultural Bolsheviks because they've been doing it for over 100 years. I think Scientology is not that old. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, join the various other links if you wish, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Oh, shit! I gotta get it to 10 minutes for some reason. I hate all these people so much. It's like the country didn't have to go down this direction. But there's this elephant in the room of the media, and nobody's gonna shine a light on it. So it's like a situation where he goes, there's several pathways into this space time, and the one with the highest probability is going to a civil conflict. But there's all these other pathways. You could turn this thing around if you wish. Now, you can turn it around, but you could take it away from that pathway into a more peaceful dissolution of this union that's become discordant. It doesn't have to go to this pathway that leads to well-fertilized fields. But then you look around for the adults to enter the building, for someone on the horizon to step up and go, okay, let's minimize, let's try to have a soft landing as possible. And you look around for that adult to come in and say that, and you realize, like, oh, they're not saying that. They're not. There's no adults on the horizon. So you go, wait a minute, are we legitimately going to go to Civil War Part 2 and World War 3 simply because no politician has the cojones to step up? Yeah, that's welcome to history. So that's why I say stack white rice and whatever your liberty device of choice is. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on next episode.